Hey, welcome back to Night Owl Movie Talk, keeping you up on all the latest movie news, or at least the movie news I'm interested in. And by latest movie news, I mean TV shows from 50 years ago, because the Munsters trailer dropped this week, and I'm ready to check it out. Let's watch it. All right. Let's turn the sound down so I don't get a copyright strike. All right. First, we got the house, Mockingbird Lane. Let's freeze it there. Herman busts through the door. I'm already not kind of liking him. Herman is played by a character actor who was in a bunch of Rob Zombie's movies. He also can't even think of anything else interesting he's been in. He's primarily just tall and fun, but I think he's buddies with Rob Zombie from his other stuff that he's done. So I'm not liking the way he's carrying himself. The outfit itself looks good. It looks like Herman Munster, but he's kind of playing it up as overly, I don't know, Paul Lind or something. All right, and then we started back up, and here's Sherry Moon Zombie as Yvonne DiCarlo's Lily Munster. See, I'm a big fan, if you can see up here. Those are little baby Munsters. I'm a fan of the Munsters from when I was a kid. It was still in syndication late at night when I'd be up. So, color TV was around, but these old black and white shows would play past midnight. So I've seen all the Munsters, all the Addams Families, Twilight Zones, all that. Munsters is interesting. It's a rip-off directly of the Addams Family. They flat out admit, like, the idea that they were going to use for the Addams Family, which is to take a show like Leave It to Beaver and have like a boring kind of suburban, just run-of-the-mill, very vanilla life, and plug these, monsters in there, or at least oddball, quirky weirdos, right? It's, kind of this underlying message of integration in the 60s. It's like just because you think the people next door are weird or different or evil or whatever it is you got in your mind, that doesn't mean that they are. Get to know them because you'll learn they're just like you. They worry about their family. They worry about paying the bills. They love their kids and they struggle with raising them and keeping them safe and all that. So when you overcome, how people look, you will learn to understand they're just like you. So both the Addams Family and the Munsters took that approach to, like, teaching people in the 60s how to, be civil to one another. But the thing with the Munsters is, and they flat out say, we took the Addams Family idea and just did it better because they had access to the Universal monsters because this was put out by Universal. So, you get to use Frankenstein and you get to, well, Frankenstein's monster. I don't want any comments. And you get to use, like an older Dracula for, Grandpa Munster. And Lily is supposed to be like a vampirous undead, but because of her white streak and the way it hangs down, to me, she always looked like sort of a cross between Bride of Frankenstein and an undead, Bride of Dracula and those sort of Hammer films. But um, in this, I think Sherry Moon is cast well. She looks the role, but I think it's weird. Rob Zombie has used her as a muse ever since he started making movies. She's always been a person who he wants to. He's a reason to make these movies. He's got a person to star in them and someone he loves to work with and all that. So her being in this is just expected. If she wasn't, I'd be like, are they getting divorced? Is everything okay? But instead, she's age appropriate because she's, undead vampire lady or whatever. So that's cool that he keeps finding roles for his wife, going all the way back to House of a Thousand Corpses, where she's like this, young woman, seductress, evil, murderous woman. And then when you move on to Devil's Rejects and then through like 31 and stuff, especially Lords of Salem. Lords of Salem is like a love letter to Sherry Moon Zombie. Like, she slowly walks through the park in the fall. It's very like Roman Polanski. But here she looks super appropriate. She's got the outfit and the hair and all that. So par for the course. What do you expect? Okay, so then here's Grandpa Munster. He's played by that guy. Let's pause it again. He's played by that guy, and you're like, "What do you mean that guy?" As soon as you see him, you're like, "Oh, that guy." I didn't know that was his name as soon as I saw him, but I recognized him. He's been in a million things. I'm sure he was in some of Rob Zombie's other stuff, in particular Devil's Rejects, because he's that type of character actor. Where it's like, oh, I love this guy, stick him in there. So he's playing Grandpa Munster, which feels like perhaps maybe Sid Haig was supposed to be in here, but Sid got sick. So by the time they got this project up and running, it was just too late. So um, I think he looks good. He looks. Al Lewis was iconic as Grandpa Munster. He later on became like a late night movie horror host. So you got to understand that Al Lewis is like a benchmark for how these crazy, creepy 70s or 60s spooky monsters are supposed to look. So, um, I think this dude's doing an all right job, but he feels almost just like he's stuck in there. Oh, okay. It's in now in living color. All right. All right, let's pause it there. I think they look better in color, actually. Um, when they tried to show the original start of it, it's a black and white, the tribute to the old beginning theme song. By the way, since I have the volume turned off, you couldn't hear. It's just the same Munsters theme song from the old show, except rather than having kind of a twangy beach rock sound, like a surf rock sound, like Pulp Fiction or something, it's got like a more of a bass, underlying to the Munsters theme, which is more appropriate for now and more appropriate for Rob Zombie's style of music and everything. So, but other than that, that's all we're hearing. But this now them in color, I like them better. It looks like Munster Go Home. If you haven't seen Munster Go Home, the TV show was only on for like 2 seasons, and then after that, it was they had a couple of little special movies. One of them was Munster Go Home, where they go to England, and that's where Herman's in the drag race with Dragula, and which Rob Zombie sang about in one of his songs, which I'm pretty sure is how he ended up getting this role or this part in writing and directing this. Um, Seeing them in color and seeing them in this shot here that I have it froze on, I can see a few things that intrigue me. One, they have a bunch of suitcases off on the side there, um, and then I think that probably indicates that they're going to have some sort of overseas adventure. That would make sense. But one, where's Marilyn? If you're not familiar with the show, it's these monsters, but then they have a niece who's exceptionally good looking. She's a bit of a dish for the 60s, She's um, and that's kind of the Twilight Zone, Eye of the Beholder gag where they're monsters, but they see her as ugly and they're just like, oh, that poor girl, she's never going to meet a nice man. She's horrific. So Marilyn isn't around, so I'm wondering if that's maybe something that's coming in this story or something they'll stumble onto in this story. I didn't see anyone playing Marilyn in the Wikipedia early credits. Um, and then another thing I'm wondering is where's Eddie? All right, their son Eddie is a werewolf boy. Well, because they had access to the Universal monsters, it's like, well, let's make this Lon Chaney Jr. looking little rascal with the, Butch, what's his name, with the good widow's peak hairline. He looks like a monster. Um, and the thing I always liked about Eddie the Wolf Boy is he slept in a dresser drawer. Like I guess it was because he comes from a long line of people who sleep in a coffin, but just he would go to bed in a dresser drawer, and he had a little doll that was very similar to him named Wolfie, and except it was a wolf doll, but he wore the same clothes. It was like the first American Girl kind of thing. So, um, getting back to this, I like them better in color. I think Herman in particular looks way better in color than he did in the black and white. I understand why they wanted to do the traditional opening as a teaser trailer. You only get a minute to introduce the characters. But photos of these people have kind of been floating around since, movies got back to going after the pandemic. So I've seen these images before, except now they're live and moving around. Um, Overall, I would say I'm interested in checking it out. I don't know if it's going to make a lot of money at the box office. It appears to me that they're going to do the Brady Bunch thing, the Brady Bunch movie thing, where you take the classic 70s or late 60s in this case squares. They're from a different era, and you put them in now, and then the people react to how weird it is that they have those beliefs and stuff, which is what the show was already. You know what I mean? Like the Brady Bunch was all straight. So then when you put it in a movie that makes fun of how weird it is, but the plot of this was already that they're weird and people are like, who are these goofballs? So I don't know if you can double layer that. Um, I don't think I'm gonna get out to the theater for it. I'm sure I'll see it on streaming. I've seen pretty much everything Rob Zombie's done except for Three from Hell or whatever. It went straight to Shutter, and I haven't gotten around to seeing it on there. It's behind a paywall. Um, but yeah, overall, hot take bot. Any thoughts?
Looks like the zombies can expect a new addition to their family. and his name is Oscar.
Wow, insightful as usual. Okay, well, that's been the Munster edition of Night Owl Movie Talk. I'll probably end up talking about this movie after I see it and give you a follow-up review, put a nice little bow on this whole situation with the Munsters and whatnot. Until then, catch you later.